All right, let's dive into a classic today. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
This book came out way back in 1937, and it's still so relevant today, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it really is all about timeless wisdom.
It's true. Carnegie, he was ahead of his time. I mean, he spent years, like literally years, studying successful people.
Oh, wow.
Not just what made them successful, but the how.
Oh, interesting.
Their techniques, how they connected with people.
Okay.
You know, how they built relationships. And then, you know, he tested those principles in his own courses that he taught.
Oh, cool.
And then put it all together in this book.
So what we're going to do today is we're not just going to like rehash all the stories, although some of them are super fascinating.
Yeah.
What we're going to do is we're going to kind of like extract those core principles, like the real nuggets of wisdom.
Yeah.
And figure out like, why do they work?
Exactly.
And how can we use them, you know?
It's about understanding the psychology behind it all so that we can communicate better.
Yeah.
Build better relationships, you know, in all areas of life.
I love that.
Oh,
Okay, so let's get into part 1. Fundamental techniques in handling people.
okay.
Carnegie, he doesn't really pull any punches.
Yeah.
Like right out of the gate.
He gets straight to it.
He does, yeah.
So principle number 1 is don't criticize, condemn, or complain.
Okay.
He believes that criticism is useless, honestly, and even dangerous.
Oh, wow.
Because it just puts people on the defensive.
Right.
It doesn't really lead to lasting change.
Yeah, I can see that. If you think about it, like, anytime someone's criticizing you, it just makes you resentful.
It's just a natural human reaction.
Right.
You know, we get defensive when we feel attacked.
Yeah.
And he even uses the example of Abraham Lincoln,
Oh, wow.
who, you know, after the Battle of Gettysburg, he was so angry with General Meade, he wrote him this furious letter, but didn't send it.
What? Lincoln was gonna, like, rip into a general?
Oh, yeah, he was so upset, but he didn't send it.
I guess that's why he's, you know, so well regarded.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He took a step back, he thought about it, and he realized it would just, you know, damage the relationship and achieve nothing.
So it's that pause and reflect
Right.
that really makes a difference. Like, it makes me think about, like, every time I want to hit send on that, like, angry email.
Yes, yeah.
It's like, hold on a second.
Yeah, maybe not.
Right.
To kind of back this up, he even talks about B.F. Skinner,
Huh?
you know, the researcher who did all that work on operant conditioning. And, you know, he found that animals and also humans, they respond much better to rewards than punishment.
Right.
Think about it yourself. Do you learn better if someone yells at you for making a mistake? Or when someone encourages you to try again?
Yeah, to that encouragement, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you mess up, get back on the
That's
horse.
exactly.
It's that positive reinforcement.
Exactly. So, you know, if we shouldn't criticize,
Yeah.
then what should we be doing?
Yeah.
And that leads us very nicely into the next principle, which is give honest and sincere appreciation.
All right.
He believed that everybody, like, it's a fundamental human need.
It's okay.
We crave appreciation.
I mean, who doesn't love a little praise and recognition?
Yeah.
But you're saying, like, just saying good job is gonna, like, transform relationships.
It's not just about empty flattery.
Okay.
It's about genuine appreciation, you know? Seeing and acknowledging the good.
Okay.
He tells the story about this man who decided to appreciate his wife more, and it, like, transformed their marriage for the better.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
That's great.
Shifting your focus from the negative to the positive.
Right. It's like noticing what they're doing well.
Exactly. And he even gives a story about a sales rep who, you know, he had this difficult client, and he managed to retain the client because he constantly showed appreciation, not just to the client, but, like, to the client's staff.
Wow.
So the receptionist, the assistants, everybody.
So it's like good for business too.
Yeah. Think of it like social currency. You know, you make someone feel valued, you're building goodwill, you're strengthening that connection. Whether it's your spouse, your coworker, your client, you know, everyone wants to feel seen and appreciated.
That is so true. Okay, so no criticizing, lots of appreciation. What's next?
The next principle is all about understanding motivation.
Okay.
Arouse in the other person an eager want.
Okay.
So to influence someone effectively, you need to figure out not just what you want, but what they want. What are their desires and goals?
This sounds tricky. How do you figure out, like, what someone wants without them just telling you?
He gives this great analogy. He says, imagine you're trying to, you know, force a calf into a barn.
Right.
you can push and pull all you want,
Right.
but if the calf doesn't want to go in, you're not going to get very far.
Stubborn calves, I can relate to that.
But what if you offer the calf, some food, or like let it suck on your finger so that it trusts you, right? And then you can gently lead it into the barn.
So it's about like understanding their motivation
Yeah,
and then guiding them towards like a shared goal.
exactly.
Right.
And he, says this applies to people too.
Right.
And he gives the best example, Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate. He had limited schooling, but he became incredibly successful, like a master at influencing people.
And he did that by figuring out what people wanted.
Exactly.
Right.
He himself said, if there is any one secret of success, it lies in the ability to get the other person's point of view and see things from that person's angle as well as from your own.
So interesting. And so did Dale Carnegie, do you have an example from like how he used that principle himself?
Oh, yeah. He tells a story how he managed to negotiate a lower rent increase during the Great Depression. So instead of just complaining about his own financial situation,
Right.
he sat down with the hotel manager and talked about like the pros and cons of raising the rent from the manager's perspective.
Okay.
So he helped the manager see things from a different angle.
Right.
One that ultimately benefited both of them.
So he appealed to like the manager's self-interest.
Exactly. And showed him how, keeping the rent stable would actually lead to greater occupancy, right? And more profit in the long run.
Okay. Wow, that's kind of genius.
It is.
Like that eager want principle, like you can use it for anything.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so we covered the first three of like Carnegie's fundamental techniques. Don't criticize, give appreciation, and arouse an eager want.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on this part one before we move on?
These three principles, I think, they lay a foundation of respect and understanding.
Yeah.
They challenge us to shift our focus from ourselves
Right.
to others, to really try and see the world through their eyes.
Okay.
And understand what motivates them.
So it's like a secret code almost
Right.
to unlock better communication and relationships.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, let's get into part two.
Our part 2, 6 ways to make people like you. So this is where Carnegie really gets into like building those genuine connections, right?
Yeah, this section is all about like fostering likability, how to build rapport.
Yeah.
Which are essential for any kind of, successful interaction.
It's like he's giving us like the cheat codes to being everyone's favorite person.
Right.
So where do we even begin?
Well, his first principle in this section is deceptively simple, but very powerful.
Okay.
It's become genuinely interested in other people.
Okay, so that sounds easy enough, right? Like just ask them, how's your day, or whatever.
You're right. It's more than just, surface level small talk.
Yeah.
It's about really showing, genuine curiosity about the other person's, thoughts and feelings and experiences.
So how do we actually do that? Like, how do we cultivate that genuine interest?
He gives this fascinating parallel to dogs.
Okay.
He says, think about it. Dogs are almost universally loved. Why is that? Because they express pure joy in seeing us.
Yeah, that's true.
They're not, trying to impress us or get something from us.
Oh, yeah.
They're just like happy to be in our presence.
Yeah, they're just like there for you.
Exactly.
Like pure love and enthusiasm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we can learn from that.
Right.
Yeah. When we show genuine interest in others without any ulterior motive.
Right.
It creates this warm and inviting atmosphere.
So it's really about being present.
Yes.
Being engaged, really listening to what they have to say.
Yeah.
And asking like thoughtful follow-up questions, right?
Exactly.
Instead of just waiting for your turn to talk.
Yes. He even tells a story about a baby in a doctor's waiting room.
Okay.
Like a room full of anxious, impatient people. And this baby comes in and just like flashes everyone a big smile.
Oh.
And suddenly the whole atmosphere of the room shifts.
I feel like baby smiles can do that. Yeah.
Right.
It's true.
Because that baby, without even trying,
Yeah.
reminded everyone of like the simple joy of human connection.
It's so true. Yeah. Okay. I like that. Genuine interest is key. What's the next tip to be more likable?
This one's a classic.
Okay.
Smile.
Okay.
He says a genuine smile creates a positive first impression.
Okay.
Makes you more approachable.
I feel like everyone smiles though.
Yeah, but he emphasizes that it needs to be genuine.
Oh, okay.
Not a fake, forced grin. It's about, like, projecting warmth and openness.
Right.
He even tells the story about this man who decided to smile for 2 months straight
Wait, what?
as an experiment.
2 months of just non-stop smiling.
Yes.
That sounds exhausting. Did it work?
Well, he claims that it completely transformed his business and personal life.
Really?
Yeah. People just responded so positively to his, warmth and approachability.
Oh, wow.
He, closed more deals, made more friends, just generally felt happier.
I guess there's something to be said about, the power of a smile, right?
Yeah. It's like an instant mood booster for everybody.
It's a universal language of friendliness. It disarms people. It invites them to connect with you.
Yeah. Okay, smile check. What's the next tip for winning people over?
This one's a bit longer, but it's worth remembering. Remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah.
I definitely think, using someone's name, it shows that you've, taken the time to remember them.
Exactly. It makes them feel important and acknowledged.
Yeah.
And he shares a story about Jim Farley, who was this politician who built a successful career on his ability to remember names.
Really?
Yeah. He would store away little details about people that he met so that, even if he saw them again, months or years later, he could greet them by name and, ask about their family and hobbies.
That takes, serious effort, though.
It does.
But I'm sure it paid off big time.
It did. Because remembering names shows that you care. It shows that you've taken the time to see the other person.
Right. Didn't he also, tell a story about a guy that, got a free puppy from, complimenting a judge's dogs?
That's right. It's a funny anecdote, but it really drives home the point.
Yeah.
And then there's the story about the grumpy cafeteria worker who, completely changed her demeanor when someone bothered to learn her name. It's about making people feel seen and valued.
That is so true.
Yeah.
Okay, remembering names is very important. What's next?
This goes hand in hand with the last one.
What?
Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves.
Ah, the art of conversation. I always try to get better at that. But isn't it, natural to want to jump in with your own stories and opinions?
It is, but Carnegie believes that most people genuinely enjoy talking about themselves.
Okay.
If you can be a patient and attentive listener, you'll win their favor.
It's about really shifting that focus, from me to you, right?
Exactly. Ask questions, show genuine interest, resist that urge to interrupt, or steer the conversation back to yourself.
He even talks about entertaining a botanist for an entire evening just by listening and asking questions.
That's right.
Even though he knew nothing about botany.
Exactly. But he made that botanist feel heard and appreciated, and it made for a successful and enjoyable evening for both of them. It's a reminder that we don't always have to be the most interesting person in the room to make a positive impression.
Okay, so next dinner party, I'm just going to be channel my inner Carnegie, just listen to everyone.
There you go.
Okay, good listening check.
Yeah.
What's the next tip for being more likable?
This kind of builds on the last one.
Okay.
Talk in terms of the other person's interests. So, find common ground, engage with their passions.
So, instead of trying to impress someone with, your own knowledge, it's about tapping into theirs.
Exactly. He gives the example of Theodore Roosevelt.
Oh, okay.
Who, was known for his wide-ranging knowledge, but, it wasn't because he was, a genius.
Right.
It was because he would research his guests' interests before they even arrived so that he could engage them in these meaningful conversations.
Oh, wow. So he was, really going the extra mile.
He was. He understood that people, they just light up when you talk about things that they're passionate about.
That's really interesting. Okay. I'm seeing a pattern here, right?
What's that?
It's all about, putting the focus on the other person.
Yeah.
Making them feel heard, making them feel valued.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And his final principle in this section kind of brings it all together.
Okay.
Make the other person feel important and do it sincerely.
So it's kind of that honest appreciation that we were talking about?
It's related, but it goes a step further.
Okay.
It's about acknowledging, their worth, their contributions, making them feel like they really matter.
Okay, yeah. Didn't he have that, that story about that lonely woman that gifted her car to her nephew?
Yes.
The one who was, just showed her that appreciation.
Yes. She was, starved for attention and recognition. And his simple act of appreciation, it meant the world to her.
It's amazing how powerful, the little kindness can be.
It really is. He also uses George Eastman, the founder of Kodak, as an example.
Oh, wow.
Right. So despite his wealth and success, he still craved recognition.
That's kind of surprising. You think someone in that position, like, they wouldn't need that validation?
But he argues that it's this universal human need. We all want to feel valued and important, regardless of our accomplishments.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So make people feel important sincerely.
Yes.
Check.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So these 6 principles, taken together, they offer like a roadmap
Okay.
to becoming more likable, building stronger relationships, just creating more positive interaction.
Right.
It's about shifting your mindset, adopting habits that demonstrate genuine care and respect for others.
This is pure gold. I'm feeling very inspired to put this into practice. But wait, there's more, right?
There is. What's next? We are going to move into a whole new territory now.
Ooh.
Persuasion.
Okay.
Get ready for part 3. How to win people to your way of thinking.
Ooh, I like this. This is where things get interesting.
Yeah. Carnegie's about to give us all the secrets on how to influence others, effectively and ethically.
I can't wait. Okay, we're back. Ready to tackle part 3. How to win people to your way of thinking.
Yeah.
So this is where Carnegie really gets into the art of persuasion, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This section is all about how to influence others effectively.
Right.
Without, resorting to manipulation or coercion.
So it's about winning hearts and minds,
Yeah.
not just arguments.
Exactly. And he starts off with a very powerful, maybe even controversial statement.
Okay.
You can't win an argument.
Wait, really? Isn't that the whole point of arguing? To win?
Well, think about it. Have you ever won an argument,
Yeah.
but walked away feeling like you actually lost something? Maybe the relationship suffered or you created resentment.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Yeah.
Like a hollow victory.
Right, yeah.
And he argues that arguing is actually counterproductive.
Okay.
It just creates resentment and it rarely changes anyone's mind. Even if you win the argument, you've probably damaged the relationship in the process.
That's a good point. So what's the alternative? How do we persuade people without arguing?
He offers some practical advice from this publication called Bits and Pieces about how to turn disagreements into more productive conversations.
Interesting.
So they suggest, the first thing is welcoming dissent, seeing it as an opportunity to learn and grow.
So be open to hearing other viewpoints.
Exactly.
Even if you don't agree with them.
Exactly. The next tip is to listen to understand, not just to respond.
Okay.
Really trying to see the other person's point of view, even if you don't agree with it.
I feel like that takes conscious effort though, especially when emotions are running high.
It does,
Yeah.
but it's essential for building bridges and finding common ground.
Okay.
Speaking of which, that's the next tip. Find areas of agreement.
Okay.
Even in heated disagreements.
Yeah.
There are usually some shared values or goals, that you can build on.
So focus on the things you agree on.
Yeah.
Rather than getting bogged down in the differences.
Exactly. And then finally, postpone action to allow for reflection.
Okay.
So give both sides time to cool down and process information before making any, decisions.
Yeah, I'm super guilty of rushing into things, and it never really ends well.
Yeah, taking a step back, it allows for more thoughtful and measured responses.
Okay, so we're moving away from arguments.
Right.
What's Carnegie's next principle for winning people to our way of thinking?
This one kind of flows naturally from the first.
Okay.
Show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say you're wrong.
Even if they are.
Even if they are. He believes that directly telling someone they're wrong is almost guaranteed to backfire.
Right.
It puts them on the defensive and shuts down the conversation.
So it's about preserving their ego a little bit.
It is. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and just because you disagree doesn't mean they're wrong. And he gives an example. There's a story about a credit department head who won back a disgruntled customer
Okay.
by simply acknowledging the customer's feelings and apologizing for the company's mistake.
So instead of arguing or trying to prove him wrong,
Exactly.
he just showed empathy.
Empathy, understanding, and that simple act of respect totally turned the situation around.
It's you're recognizing that every interaction
Yeah.
is an opportunity to build a relationship, not just win an argument.
Exactly.
Okay, so respect opinions. What else does Carnegie say?
His next principle takes this a step further.
Okay.
If you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically.
Ooh, that one's hard.
I know, it's not easy. It's definitely vulnerable. But he believes that by taking responsibility for your mistakes,
Okay.
you actually disarm your opponent and you build trust.
So you're showing integrity.
Exactly. He gives an example. He talks about, admitting fault to a client who was dissatisfied with his work.
Okay.
And by, acknowledging his mistake, he actually salvaged the relationship and achieved a positive outcome.
So sometimes owning up to your mistakes can strengthen your position, even.
It can. And he also tells this really heartwarming story about a father who reconciled with his son by admitting his wrongdoing in front of the entire class.
Oh, wow.
Right. So it would have been easier for that father to just maintain his pride, but by admitting his mistake, he, not only restored the relationship with his son, but also modeled really important values.
I like that. Okay, admit your mistakes.
Yeah.
Got it. What's next?
This one's about, setting the right tone for constructive feedback.
Okay.
Begin with praise and honest appreciation.
Oh, so start with the positive before you dive into the negative.
It's not about, sugarcoating or being insincere. It's about acknowledging the good
Yeah.
before addressing the areas for improvement.
It's like a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
Exactly. He uses the example of Charles Schwab dealing with employees who were smoking
Oh,
in a no-smoking zone. So instead of reprimanding them, he offered them cigars and asked them to smoke outside.
that's so smart.
It is.
He got his point across
He did.
without, creating a bunch of resentment.
It's a great example of how a little bit of praise and understanding can go a long way.
Yeah. Okay, praise first, criticize later. What's next?
This one's about being subtle.
Okay.
Call attention to people's mistakes indirectly.
So hint at the problem without, directly accusing them.
Precisely. Carnegie believed that, direct criticism
Right.
often leads to defensiveness.
Yeah.
But if you can, subtly guide someone towards recognizing their own mistakes,
Okay.
they're more likely to accept responsibility.
He uses that example of the army sergeant, right? Encouraging his recruits to get regulation haircuts.
Yeah.
But he got his haircut first.
Exactly. He led by example, subtly conveying the desired behavior without having to issue, a direct order.
Right.
And then he also tells a story about Lyman Abbott, who's this preacher, whose wife subtly critiqued his sermon by suggesting he speak more naturally.
So she kind of planted that seed
She did.
instead of delivering a harsh critique.
Exactly.
Okay. So indirect criticism. What's next?
This one's all about showing vulnerability.
Okay.
Talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person.
Ooh, leading with humility.
Exactly. He believed that when you acknowledge your own flaws, it makes you more relatable and it lessens the sting of criticism.
It's like, hey, we all make mistakes. I'm not perfect either.
Right. And he gives the example of, reflecting on his own past mistakes before criticizing his young secretary.
Okay.
So by showing humility, he created this more open and receptive atmosphere for feedback.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Talk about your own mistakes first.
Got it.
Okay. On to the next one. This one sounds like it's straight out of a motivational poster.
Okay, hit me.
Praise the slightest improvement and praise every improvement. Be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise.
That's a mouthful.
It is, but I think you get the gist right.
Yeah.
It's all about the power of positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
He believed that acknowledging even small improvements encourages growth and just fosters a more positive environment. He uses the example of a dog trainer who used praise and treats to encourage his animals.
So it works for both humans and animals.
Seems to be, a universal principle of learning.
Interesting.
He also talks about Enrico Caruso's mother, whose unwavering support and praise fuels his success as an opera singer.
So behind every great person is a cheerleader.
Yeah.
Showering them with praise and encouragement.
It can be a powerful force. And he also tells the story of Charles Dickens, whose life was transformed by the encouragement he received after getting his first story published.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Okay, what's next?
This one's about setting expectations.
Okay.
Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to.
So believing in them even before they believe in themselves.
Precisely. He argues that people often rise to meet the expectations set for them.
He tells that great story about the, discouraged hotel maid, right?
Yeah.
Who blossomed into this confident woman.
She did.
After someone said, you have the potential for greater things.
That's right. that simple act of believing in her transformed her entire outlook. You know, it's like the Pygmalion effect.
Yeah.
Our beliefs about others can actually shape their reality.
Okay, so what's Carnegie's final principle in this section on persuasion?
This one kind of brings it all together.
Okay.
Use encouragement. Make the fault seem easy to correct.
So focusing on solutions and possibilities rather than, like, dwelling on the problem.
Exactly. He believed that highlighting someone's potential and emphasizing, like, the ease of improvement actually motivates them to do better.
Right.
He gives the example of his friend who became a better dancer after being told she had natural rhythm.
It's all in, like, the power of suggestion.
But it is. It's about framing things in a positive and encouraging way.
I love it.
And he also shares the story of this father who motivated his son to do chores by turning it into a game with financial incentives.
Oh, that's smart.
Right. So by making the chore seem like easy and appealing,
Yeah.
he achieved his goal without, resistance.
Wow. That was quite the deep dive into persuasion.
Yeah.
Carnegie really covered a lot of ground.
He did. And, if we kind of connect all these principles, I think the overarching theme is respect.
Right.
It's about approaching others with empathy, understanding, and a genuine desire to see them succeed.
It's not about, like, manipulation or trickery.
No.
It's about building genuine connections.
Yeah.
And inspiring positive change.
Well said. While Carnegie really focused on the practical techniques,
Yeah.
I think what really makes his work so enduring is his deep respect for human nature.
Right. He understood that everyone, regardless of their position or personality, wants to feel important and appreciated.
Yeah.
And if you can tap into that truth in your interactions, you're well on your way to building stronger relationships.
Right.
And achieving your goals.
That is a fantastic takeaway. And remember, even small changes in how you approach others can make a huge difference. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into how to win friends and influence people. See you next time.